I'm Joseph Tung from Seattle, the executive producer of Halo Reach.
So let's talk about matchmaking support first. Tell us about all the glorious things that you will now be able to do with Reach.
Well, for the first time, of course, you'll be able to matchmake into Firefight as the #1 feature request from Firefight and ODST, and we definitely brought it in Reach. You'll also be able to matchmake in campaign, so if you want to play co-op campaign but none of your friends are online, you can matchmake for campaign as well. So you'll be able to matchmake for campaign, firefight, and of course multiplayer. So full support across the board. It's really exciting, and we're looking forward to it.
Tell us a little bit more about the versus mode in Firefight, which you just announced at Comic-Con.
Sure. So versus mode is really exciting. It's a new way to play Firefight. For the very first time, you can sort of play as 2 as elites and 2 as Spartans. You could also play 1 as elite and 3 as Spartans. And the people on the elites side are, all they're concerned about is killing the Spartans, getting their lives down to 0. Of course, the Spartan side are trying to score points. And then you switch sides, so it's a really cool, new, unique way to play Firefight, and it's really fun.
You've obviously put a lot of thought and time into into making Forge World, and first of all, just run us through some of the major customization updates that you'll be able to do in Halo Reach.
Well, customization is something that we've always been really passionate about. In multiplayer, of course, there's millions of options that you can play with. We wanted to bring that customization to Firefight as well, so now for the first time in Firefight, you can absolutely customize your experience. You can change the makeup of individual waves. You can even change skull properties, so that changes gameplay. So you can do crazy things like we're shipping a game on map called on disc called Gruntpocalypse. It's all grunts all the time. They all have fuel rod guns, and when you shoot them in the head, their heads explode into confetti. So all sorts of crazy customization options in Firefight. Of course, there's Forge. We're looking forward to see what happens with Forge on day 1 with the community. You can absolutely build whatever you want in Forge now. We've made the palette much simpler. We've made the pieces that you use to create things much more modular, more flexible. And we've also given the tools an overhaul, so it's a lot easier to move stuff around in Forge. You can phase objects together, you can sink objects into the ground, you can sink them into the cliff wall. And last but not least, Forge World itself, it's a giant blank canvas for the community to play with. And I think it's going to be huge for customization for players to do whatever they want. Last but not least, there's player customization. So for the very first time, you can play as a female Spartan. You can also customize your armor to a much greater degree than Halo 3. And we're really looking forward to players investing in their own unique Spartans. No matter what you're doing, if you're playing campaign, multiplayer, firefight, you're earning credits. You're using those credits to buy armor pieces in the armory, and we're really looking forward to seeing players make their own unique Spartans.
Now with Forge World, because there are so many customization options, do you think that kind of takes the surprise out of playing? So you build a map from scratch and you absolutely know how many elites are coming over that hill with how many guns and what time they'll shoot it and all this sort of stuff. So you pretty much have nailed down every single aspect of this map. But does that take the surprise out of actually playing that map just because you know exactly what's going to happen?
Well, I think Halo's always been about the sandbox, and so I've played the campaign missions many times over, and I'm still surprised at what happens. That's sort of the nature of a sandbox game. You never really know how you're going to be able to approach a particular encounter. You might be able to kill an elite a different way, and that's sort of the beauty of Halo.
Run us through the different Forge spaces and their play advantages, because we saw at Comic-Con, we saw the island, and then we saw a space at the top of the hill, which is kind of like a smaller map. So how many different kind of spaces are, and what are the different advantages for play?
I think there's on the order of 6 or 7 unique spaces in Forge World. First of all, there's the Coliseum. It's made specifically to support Griffball, the variant that RVB came up with in Halo 3. There's also a little floating rock off to the side. We've actually we've actually built Ascension, the Halo 2 multiplayer map, in that space. It's going to ship on disk. It's 100% created in Forge. There's another space on the top of the hill that's meant for a sort of smaller, symmetrical 4-on-4 Team Slayer map. There's, of course, the island. There's Blood Gulch. And there's a lot of interim spaces in between, so there's at least 2 more spaces sort of above Blood Gulch that you can use to forge as well. But the really important thing to note is the entire environment is forgeable. So because of the ability to phase objects, if you want to build a map that's just a bunch of floating platforms in the sky, you can drop the grid and you can do that right in the sky. So it's sort of a limitless environment as far as forging is concerned, and so that's why we call it, a giant blank canvas for forgers.
So you could build like a Mario map.
You absolutely could build a Mario map. Marcus, the creative director, his 2 kids, he took Forge home, and his 2 kids started playing with Forge, and one of them went off to one end of Blood Gulch, and the other one went off to the other side of the world, and they both started building castles in the sky in their little individual parts of Forge. Other testers at Bungie have been making Banshee race maps with gates that you go through one after another, with dragons made out of rocks that fire kill balls across the sky. So absolutely, it's going to be pretty crazy.
Now, the thing that struck me, you touched upon this in your last answer, but the thing that struck me most about all the stuff you can forge is the physics options, the 3 different physics options. So you've got normal, fixed, and phased. So just run us through the difference between those 3 and how awesome phased is.
The physics options in Forge are really awesome. I think everyone sort of knows that in Halo 3, when you were forging, as soon as you dropped an object, it was physically simulated in the world. That sometimes made it hard to build things in Forge. Maps could be sort of a house of cards. In Reach, we've got 3 physics modes. Normal is the same as Halo 3. Fixed is physically simulated, but when you drop it, it stays exactly where you left it. Phased is obviously the most exciting. Not only does it stay where you dropped it, but you can sink that object into the ground. You can sink it into the cliff, so you can build a map that comes out of the cliff, or you can merge different forged geometries. So it makes it really, really easy to build that map that you have in your head. Much more easy than Halo 3, and I think the community is really going to enjoy it.
Okay, so we're talking about some pretty complex stuff here. I guess, why did you guys decide to give these options to players in Halo Reach?
Well, I mean, from the very beginning, we knew that Reach was going to be Bungie's last Halo project, and we just really wanted to sort of blow the doors off and make Reach the biggest Halo game that Bungie's made yet, and we also wanted to give the community the tools to sustain the game for many years to come. So you're going to see a ton of customization options. You're going to see hopefully the community making a bunch of maps in Forge World. If stuff comes out of Forge World that turns out to be shared a lot by the community, we'll know. We'll be looking to get some of that stuff into matchmaking as well. So that's where that came from.
Are you going to hire the creators of the particularly good maps?
You can always hope. We certainly have hired from the community quite a lot, and it would be great if some folks out there came up with some great new maps in Forge.
So, do you see this kind of transparency becoming a new trend in the industry? So, I guess, do you think that one day kind of all games will ship with the inbuilt tools for players to be able to create levels the way that the game developers did?
Not even Forge is really the sort of full set of development tools that we have internally, and I think it's going to be different for different games. Not all games are not all games even have multiplayer. So I think it's very dependent on the project itself. I think for Reach, we just wanted to make sure that we covered all of our bases, and that's why we've got Campaign, Forge, Firefight, Matchmaking. We wanted to make sure it was the most game we had ever put in the box. So that's where it came from us. It would be great to see it in the future, and maybe we will.
For me, this is quite daunting. I could never kind of, well, I could try and get my hand around it, but I don't. I think many people will just kind of start and then just give up. So, how many people do you think are actually going to kind of understand what's going on?
Well, in Halo 3, even I had a tough time using Forge. It was definitely, you had to really be passionate to create a map in Forge, but it's much, much easier in Reach. It's actually really fun to play around in Forge and just sort of build stuff. Like I said, the creative director and his kids, they're just sort of using it as virtual Legos in a way, and they're not even interested in playing Slayer necessarily. So. I think a lot of people will not only be able to create maps if they want to, they're just going to enjoy messing around in Forge, messing around in the giant playground that's Forge World. And at the same time, I think it'll always be sort of a smaller community that really puts the time and effort into crafting maps. And the great thing is the larger community gets to enjoy that content. So. Hopefully we'll see some of that.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more about the fun customization options, because I'm looking at you, the teleporter, the golf club, and the forklift. I noticed the room pretty much exploded at Comic-Con when you guys announced the forklift. There was a guy literally saying, "Oh my god," like 10 times. So I guess, is this Bungie's sense of humor coming through, or?
Yeah, you could say that. The forklift was one of the things that sort of came about as a happy accident. But Marcus, the creative director, really wanted to make sure that every civilian vehicle in the game was drivable. So pretty much any vehicle, if you see it in the game, it's going to be drivable. The forklift is just one of those. It's one of the more ridiculous ones, and we're happy it's in.
Now tell us about the hologram thing, because that's kind of cool.
Yeah, hologram's one of the cool new armor abilities. You activate it by just pointing your reticle at a particular spot, and the hologram will run to that spot. It's really evil in multiplayer games. You get the other person to sort of waste their sniper rounds on a hologram, but it's pretty fun in campaign and firefight as well. So it's really good for tricking the AI and being able to flank the AI for an assassination, for example. So it's a pretty cool new armor ability.
Do you think that the Halo series has become more about creating and customizing and the game experience and kind of sharing it with the online community? Like, is that different from what kind of you started out with? Do you ever think that the series would end up where it has?
I think the franchise is a lot of things to a lot of different people. There are people who play the game because they love the fiction. They're super passionate about the fiction, and the thing that they are most excited about is campaign. And then there are people who play multiplayer, and all they care about is getting to level 50 or winning that next Team Slayer game. And then there are people who love messing around in Forge, and so the thing that I'm really excited about is that Reach is the first game where we really have an amazing breadth of experience. Doesn't matter what type of gamer you are, doesn't matter what type of mood you happen to be in, you're going to be able to find an experience for you in Reach, all the way from hardcore Slayer to building castles in the sky in Forge.
Now, Halo as a series has been very reliant on AI. So how do you think that AI in games has advanced and changed and grown, and how do you think that Halo Reach kind of utilizes that?
Well, I can't speak for the industry as far as AI is concerned. I know for Reach, we absolutely wanted to make sure that the elites were the fiercest, most intelligent enemies that you could possibly fight. We wanted to make sure that the Covenant was a terrifying enemy. And so we invested heavily in both animation and AI, making sure that elites were smarter, faster than they've ever been before. And I think you're really going to see it when you play the campaign.
I want to know a little bit more about the personality of the single-player campaign. How much kind of do we delve into Noble Team, the different people in the team and their backgrounds, and how much does their personality come through?
Yeah, so early on, it was both a challenge and an opportunity to be making a game about Spartans without the chief. And so one thing that we did right away was start thinking about Noble Team, their backstories, where they came from, what their relationships were, of course, how they would be visually iconic in their own right, right up there with Master Chief. And it's amazing. A lot of that got into the game. I think you're really going to see them as very human characters. Obviously, we've invested quite a lot in the fidelity of the art. You've got really nice human faces, really believable character performances out of Noble Team. So I think you're really gonna get to know them. They're much more human characters than you've seen before as Spartans, and they're pretty badass to fight next to as well.
For me, Master Chief was kind of like the icon of the Halo series. So it was the thing that gave Halo its personality, its uniqueness. It's kind of what set it apart from other first-person shooters. And I think these days a lot of first-person shooters are focusing on that team aspect, kind of like what Halo Reach is doing. So when you guys decided to make your last ever Halo game, why did you decide not to have Master Chief in it? Because he was such an iconic protagonist.
In the beginning of pre-production, when we were thinking about what the vision for the game was going to be, what we wanted our last Halo game to be, we knew right away we wanted to make a standalone game. We wanted to make a very different take on the universe for Halo fans, and that led right away to Reach. Reach fit the goals of the project perfectly, and Reach also, in addition to having a darker tone, it was a great place for us to explore multiple Spartans. Reach is the home of the Spartan project. We wanted to sort of show a different variety of Spartans, and we wanted to tell a different type of story, a story that was more close to the ground than sort of the galactic opera that the Chief followed. So all of those things sort of dovetailed into what you see in Noble Team, and we're really happy with them. We think Noble Team turned out to be really iconic characters in their own right, and they're really fun to fight alongside.